Hello and welcome back to our study of Peninei Halacha, the teachings of Rabbi Eliezer Melamed Shlita. We are beginning a new series, a new week, a new series. We had a couple of days off after Shavuos. I hope everyone had a chance to catch up on previous episodes. And I figured that since the summer season is upon us, some call it wedding season. I certainly have, Baruch Hashem, many weddings to attend and to officiate. So I thought it would be appropriate if we studied some of the laws and customs of the Jewish wedding. So in the Sefer labeled Mishpacha from Rav Melamed, where he covers many items, including honoring your parents and the bris, pidyon haben, even mourning, we have also the laws and customs of shidduchim, wedding, ceremony, etc. So we'll begin with kiddushin uktuba. Musag Nisuin al kol hamashmiot haruchoniyot v'halachtiyot shelo hitchadesh al yedei haTorah. The concept of marriage that we have, with all of its spiritual and halachic entrapments, is all, again, stems from the Torah. Lifnei matan Torah, hanoek haya, she'ish v'isha shenifkashu v'hiskimu l'chayot b'yachad, hayu nichnasim lebeso shel ish, u'maschilin l'chayos chaye ishus l'lo tekes chasuna. Before the giving of the Torah, before Mount Sinai, the custom was that a man and a woman would meet, they would agree to live as one, as what we would call a married couple, and they would go into the home, and they would start to live a married life without any formal marriage ceremony. You might call this, in today's day and age, common law marriage. V'kach hayu hayeladim noladim. And this is, of course, when they started living together as husband and wife, this is how children were born. Gam tekes gerushin rishmi lo haya. There also was no formal ceremony for ending a marriage, a divorce ceremony. El bizman she'echad mibnei hazug ratzah la'afer hakesher b'neihem hayu nifrad v'holech l'darko. But it used to be that when one of the parties wanted to sever the relationship, they would just separate and each would go his own way. Mekivan shnitna haTorah l'Yisrael. However, once the Torah was given, nitztaveinu b'mitzvas aseh. We are commanded with a positive commandment, that if a man and woman wanted to live together, they had to have what's known as kiddushin, as we'll discuss this at great length coming up, and chuppah. And also, if they wanted to separate, they had to have a formal separation process, which is what's known as a get krisos, or what we just commonly call a get. This he quotes from the Rambam, beginning of Hilchas Ishus. Now, it's a big machlokas between different opinions whether getting married is actually a mitzvah. That's really beyond the purview of this conversation. But let's just, be it as it may, that there's a mitzvah in the Torah to be married. The wedding ceremony is actually a fusion of two different parts, Eirusin and Nisuin. One is called Eirusin, what you might call betrothal, and Nisuin is the marriage. So that's Shehem Kiddushin v'chuppah, also what we know as Kiddushin, and also the chuppah ceremony. Ha'erusin heim Kiddushin, the Eirusin, the betrothal, is what's called Kiddushin, v'hanisuin heim ha'chuppah, and the Nisuin part is the chuppah. Amnam, kayom regilin l'krolam b'siba shaba b'nei hazug chogegin es hachlatasam l'ischatein Eirusin. Nowadays, the celebration where the couple decides to celebrate their decision to get married, we call that Eirusin, what we would call engagement or an engagement party. And after this engagement party, or after the proposal process, we call this couple engaged. Again, in Hebrew, we'd say me'urasim, ani me'uras, ani me'ureset. A woman or a man would say, I am engaged. He says, however, halachically speaking, the word me'uras is not correct. It's rather mishudach. They are engaged. Me'uras means actually there is a halachic tie between them. Kia Eirusin heim ha-kiddushin. The Eirusin, what we talk about in Halacha or in the Gemara, is actually kiddushin. Kolomar hashlav sheba hachasam mekadesh hatzakala. That's the portion where the chatan, the groom, actually betroths to the bride, or the bride betroths to the groom. And that's the placing of the ring, etc. The Gemara in Kedushin, in the very beginning of Kedushin, says there are three ways that a man can betroth become betrothed to his wife, the different methods. Ulam lamaisa hakol nogan lekadosh b'kinyan kesef. But practically speaking, we use one particular method, which is kesef, the acquisition through silver. That first of all, the groom presents a ring to the bride-to-be, and it's a silver ring, and he gives the ring to her, and he says the following nusach v'amiras hanusach harayat mikudeshet li b'taba'at zo kedat Moshe v'Yisrael. And he says, of course, that formula which is recited at every kosher Jewish wedding. Meha Eirusin ve'elach hakala nechsheves eshes ish. Now, from that point on, even though we have not yet had chuppah, but at the time when the groom places the ring on the bride's finger and he says that formula in front of witnesses, she's considered married. And if they wanted to separate for whatever reason, he would have to give a proper get krisos to his wife. On the other hand, once they go through that ring process, they cannot live together as a married couple. However, only after they have the Nisuin process, which takes place while they're standing under the chuppah, the recitation of the 7 blessings, only then can they begin to live as husband and wife. Now, as we'll see, this might sound strange to you, but the way we have it set up today, this was not always the way it took place. Be'avar, in the past, in the olden days, as we call them, people would have Eirusin ceremony. The husband would take the bride and he would place the ring on her finger and say the formula in front of witnesses. And then they would wait 12 months till the Nisuin, the chuppah process. Dahainu bein hakidushin la chuppah. Uba'us hashana hayibnei hazug miskonenim lechatuna mibechinas nafshis mechinen es habayis habaganim v'sudas hachasuna. That whole 12-month process, they would not live together. They would make all the preparations necessary for their home, physical, spiritual, personal preparations. Now, as we'll this year was used to develop the kesher, the personal and spiritual connection between this couple. They could not be with anyone else, but they also could not live with one another. However, over time and over various periods of galus, of diaspora, exile, the need arose that we have to actually combine the two ceremonies. They didn't have the luxury necessarily of waiting 12 months, or maybe it was perhaps more and more challenging as time went on. Reishis, we talk about exile. There were times that, well, if we would wait 12 months, who knows where we're going to be, because people were often chased from their homes. They had to run away. They had to flee persecution. And if the couple was separated and they didn't know the whereabouts of one half, then they were actually both stuck. They're not married, but they needed a get to be able to marry someone else. Or perhaps there were times that the wait was just simply too long and the pressure of being together was too strong, and perhaps there were some violations of the laws of modesty. So therefore today, and as our custom is today, we actually do both at the same time. We have the Eirusin, we have the ceremony with the ring and the brachas and the cup of wine, and then soon after, and then we have, immediately following, we have the second part of the ceremony, which is Nisuin, which is the Shever brachas under the chuppah. You'll understand then why, if you've been at a Jewish ceremony, that's why we have 2 cups of wine, 2 separate glasses, because there are 2 different ceremonies that are all taking place at the same time. Also, we'll get to this, I imagine, in due time, that part of the process of a modern-day ceremony, since we have 2 together, we had to figure out how do we differentiate between the 2 of them. So we have therefore inserted a newfound process by which it declares this is the separation or creates a division between the Eirusin and Nisuin, and that is the reading of the Ketubah. The reading, the Kriyas HaKetubah, was there to separate, and it there lets us know that the first part of the marriage ceremony is over, and the second part will begin. But again, this is a modern-day ceremony. In the times of the Gemara, people would have Eirusin, they would have the ring ceremony, they would wait 12 months, and then they would have the chuppah and nisuin, which seems so foreign to us, but we have to understand the roots of where it is we come from. So, again, this will set us off on our new path, as many of you, we have hopefully chassan and kala that are out there listening, and we have people that are making weddings, parents, grandparents, and Baruch Hashem, when we have simchas, the more we understand the nature of the process of our smachot, we will have a greater level of celebration. So I thank you all for listening. We'll see you here next time, again, as we continue the teachings of Peninei Halacha from Rabbi Eliezer Melamed Shlita.